In my introductory article to content topics, I described the first step as defining your topic taxonomy. The taxonomy is a list of topics you wish to track in your website, including the pages that make up each topic. If you look at my own website, which admittedly is quite small in scale, we see it has a section labelled Blog and Articles, Web Manager's Handbook, Online Training, and some others for About and Contact. These elements are then broadly reflected in my taxonomy. So here we have the topic About, which contains pages from the About directory, the Contact directory, and Speaking. We also have topics for downloads and publications. Then we have the two major topics that encompass most of the pages on my site. One that contains all my articles about website governance and the other about UX and content. So all in all, I've defined 9 topics for my site, and they comprise the discrete divisions of content I'm interested in terms of tracking my users' interests. Again, it's worth noting that the taxonomy does not exactly match my site's information architecture. That is, not all the pages within a topic are from the same section of the site. All that matters is that they belong to the same subject matter or division of content that I'm interested in tracking. Now, having defined my topics, the next step is to prepare them for input into Google Analytics as content groups. To do so, you go into Admin in GA and then into Content Groups. If you research this area, you'll find that you have a maximum of 5 groups you can add, at least for the free version of GA. I've already set up 2 groups, one previously as a test and a new one which we'll explore today. There are a number of ways to configure content groups, and the method I've chosen is rule definitions. These are based on regular expression queries, which is something I'm familiar with and is quite flexible in terms of data extraction. You'll see that the content groups here are the same as in my taxonomy spreadsheet. To set up the topics as content groups, you need to define them using regular expressions to match the selection of pages or other criteria you've chosen for each. The first step to that is simply to list all the pages or other criteria you want captured by each topic, and then build a query using regex rules. You'll see the most common method I use is page file names, though there are other methods, and I used a criteria of page title for one topic, the 404s. Then we build a combined regex query so as to encompass each sub-element. Now, I can't go into how to write regex here in detail, but there is some very good online guidance from Google. It requires a bit of patience to get used to, but it is relatively straightforward. For page-based topics, I first isolate the regex appropriate for each page element, and then build a full query as shown. Next, we transfer it into Google Analytics, so back into GA. Look under rule definitions, and here's where we define the topics. So for example, if I open topic About, we see that it's set up to capture everything based on pages that exactly match the regex as defined. For the element that doesn't use page file names, but instead uses page title, we see that it's set up to capture any instances where the page title matches the regex page not found. The reason I built a query like that is that on my site, if you get a 404 page, the title of that page comes back as 404 not found. So that's a convenient way to scoop up all the 404s within a single topic. Now, before we move on, I want to emphasize that the order in which you add topics to the content groups is extremely important. Refer back to my original content groups article to find out more about this and the very hard lessons I had to learn to get this right. The main one being that topic measurement is mutually exclusive and cumulative. Now, what that means is that if I add a regex query to the top of the content groups list, and if that query is clumsily written and accidentally encompasses too much content, it will make any data it captures inaccessible to subsequent topics based on the order in which they appear. This means that your topic queries need to be A, very accurately written, and B, the order in which they appear must be very well thought out. Almost certainly you won't get it right first time. I sure didn't. Plus remember that you need to continue to tweak these queries over time as new content is added to your site or moved about. The second lesson is that I advise you to set up a discrete content group to capture all instances of 404s and put that first in your list. This may not be needed for all websites, but was very useful for me as it scooped up activity for such pages and ensured only valid visits were then logged for subsequent core topics. So overall, as I said, put your 404 topic first, then all your core content topics after that, and finally your wayfinding, navigation, and subsidiary topics at the bottom. And now everything is set up, GA will start to capture and record the data. You'll find the main output under the Behavior Report Site Content All pages. The place to see it is under Content Groups. There we see the 2 content groups I set up, select all content, and now we can see the data for my content topics coming through. Again, remember, we're not tracking topics based on page views, we're tracking them using visits or sessions. And for some odd reason, Google Analytics uses the label unique views to describe visits or sessions in the content groups report. Yes, that is weird, so don't ask me why they do that. So make sure to sort in that column first and change the chart also. Sometimes you may get stray data in your report, the most common being not set. To exclude that from the report, go into Advanced, Exclude, Matching Regex, type in the query, and that'll cause it to disappear. So now we have the data we want and we can begin to export it and pull it into Excel for further analysis. Here again we see the spreadsheet I showed before for my own website. It may look complicated, but it's not that really. For each of the content topics, all we're doing is pulling in two numbers from Google Analytics per day. Those are, first, the number of unique views, that is visits or sessions, to each topic per day. And second, the number of pages visited per topic per day, or as I call it, the page count per day. Those are the only two numbers we need. The spreadsheet does the rest in terms of calculations and graphing. The reason we need to pull this data out of GA into Excel is that GA can't really present it in the straightforward way we want, in particular the page count, and the charting options per topic isn't great either. Now maybe there's a way to do it better in GA4. I know it also includes content groups, but I haven't explored it yet, or indeed into some other data crunching tool like Power BI. I'll leave that to you to investigate. Anyway, to pull out the numbers, back to GA we go. Because the data is recorded on a day-by-day basis, we need to focus in on a single day. So let's go to our recent full day as shown here. So now we see the data. The first numbers we want to pull out are the unique views. Here you can either do it by hand, as it's a small number, or else you can export using Excel. When downloaded, open the files, go into the dataset, and there we see the content topics. As the only numbers we're interested in are the unique views, we can delete all the others. We then transpose those numbers into the main spreadsheet. For large numbers of topics, I suggest using a lookup table for this exercise, but for the small numbers here, we can do it by hand. Next, we need to get the page count, so back to GA again. As the page count does not appear by default, we first need to add a secondary dimension. Search for pages and then select. It then gives us a list of all the pages visited within each topic for the selected time period. I suggest sorting by topic so you can see the pages more clearly. Again, as the numbers are quite low, we can count things straight off the screen, but for big numbers you'll need to export and perhaps use the counting function in Excel before transposing the various totals into the main Excel sheet. Just one thing to note here for my own website, some of the pages are doubled up. For example, the root directory of book and the index file of book are both counted as separate pages. However, I know they're actually the same page, so I'll just count them here as a single page. You may find similar anomalies you'll need to work around on your own side. And really, that's it. From now on, all you need to do is grab the data day by day and add it to the content topic spreadsheet. It'll soon fill up with numbers here on the left, and as time passes, the insight generated will become more and more robust and useful. Personally, I found that about a month's data was needed before I could start to use it to inform my decision making. On the bottom, you'll also see the trend lines for engagement on the content topics emerge over time. These trend lines show, in a fairly simple and visual way, the topics that get most attention and also how they compare to one another. They also show how the page count per topic changes over time. Again, for a small website like my own, the results don't look so impressive, but for a large corporate or enterprise scale website, the insight can be extremely powerful. The basic rule of thumb is that priority should go to content topics with a high average number of visits and a low average count of pages visited per day. Improvements to those topics will benefit the maximum number of engagements at the lowest cost for you. If you like, you can read more about content topics on my website, and in a future article, I plan to expand on how to use these numbers to decide what content to prioritize for UX improvements. In particular, the content topics that will benefit most from better findability and readability. But that's it for now. Thanks for watching.